In today's business world, change is the only constant, and mastering transformation is the ultimate key to success. Welcome to Shift and Thrive. I'm your host, Natalie Nathanson. Each week, we'll bring you conversations with CEOs who delve into how they successfully drove critical change in their organization. This show is sponsored by Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service B2B marketing agency. Welcome to another special edition episode on Shift and Thrive as part of our Go-to-Market Spotlight series. If you're a CEO or business leader wondering how your go-to-market needs to change to evolve right now to meet the market realities of today, this episode is for you. Today's guest is a go-to-market and marketing leader who's seen every stage of the life cycle, from early-stage startups to post-IPO industry giants. He was the first marketing hire at Zscaler, helping to build the company from the ground up, and he got to ring the bell at NASDAQ before they went public. At Google Cloud, he led marketing efforts across 140 products, balancing depth, scale, and go-to-market orchestration globally. He's also held marketing leadership roles across numerous functions, spanning roles including CMO, VP of Marketing, Product Marketing, and Brand. He's a builder at heart and just as comfortable crafting strategy as he is rolling up his sleeves. And he recently started coding his own agents to showcase what's possible. These days, he's advising companies on how to cut through the noise, modernize their go-to-market, and use AI in ways that actually make a difference. Sajag Chikarsal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Natalie. That was a little bit embarrassing listing all about myself, but thank you. Thank you for having me at the show. I have to say, I really like the way you've put this podcast. I think it sits at the intersection of the change leadership as well as the practical way of implementing GTM strategies for all stage of companies. So thank you. Happy to share my thoughts with your audience, and I'm sure I'm probably going to be learning a lot along the way too.
Thank you. And I know we'll have plenty to talk about. And, I know you've worked across some pretty different go-to-market environments, including, category creation at a startup. And as I mentioned in your introduction, orchestrating over 140 products in tandem at Google. I'd really love to start the conversation by focusing on go-to-market transformation as a key theme of the podcast. And really to start us off, what would you say has been your biggest takeaway from your various experiences leading go-to-market transformation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And all the three roles, in fact, if I talk about Zscaler, and you kindly said that I've experienced the tremendous growth in going to the IPO. But I would probably, to answer this question, I would lean more towards my journey at Google. The biggest transformation there was I was part of the Google marketing or the Google Cloud team. Google Cloud was really getting serious about enterprise business, and we had about 140 plus products when I joined, and there was no integrated campaigns team. And now I think it's more than 160 plus products. We were doing about $1 billion in revenue a quarter, and when I left, we were doing about $5 billion a quarter, so it was a $20 billion run rate. We used to call Google Cloud as the world's largest startup. Coming from a startup, Zscaler, going to a world's largest startup was an amazing journey. But the transformation that we were trying to solve for is, okay, we have 140 plus products. We have 6 or 7 verticals that we want to go after. There are 2 segments that we want to cater. There is a SMB or the startup or the tech startup world and the enterprises. So how do we actually position ourselves? And that's where it's not that you're building a new company altogether, but creating a framework for you to actually connect with the customer. And it's basically connecting 4 things. You connect the product, the customer, the sales, and how you market to the customers and how you position your persona. So the way we started building our narrative was, we want to take campaigns to the market. And I know you and I have talked about campaigns and programs too, but the way we wanted to take the campaigns was, if there are 3 personas in a given company that we're targeting, and they're in the cafeteria or they're in a conference and they're talking about our company, they all should know something about our company which is more relevant to them. And that's the key thing that we kept in mind to build the framework. And the framework was very simple. You connect the brand with the demand and the campaign. You say, what are you trying to solve for? What is your brand platform? You connect that with the themes that resonates well with the CXO audience. And when you think about a campaign, you build your campaign narrative around those themes. And you land specific messages to the CXO, and then you start building, not because CXOs don't buy products. They don't even buy solutions. They always try to optimize for cost or innovation or transformation or sustainability. And that's what they care about. But when you go and talk to directors and VPs, they want a little bit know more about how a specific solution would help them today and maybe 3 years from now. So our VP director level messaging was more solution focused. And when you go to the developers and practitioners, it was more in line with the actual product and the hows. So you connect with why, what, and how. And that's the framework that we've built. And that kind of helped us tremendously. And the way we've transformed the way we did marketing at Google Cloud, that framework is still being used. And there was a time that, I was also managing Google Cloud Next, which is the annual user conference of Google Cloud. And my CMO of Google Cloud, in fact, a couple of other leaders, the question that they posed me was, what is Google Cloud Next? Is it a campaign? Is it a program? Or what is it? Are you going to run it as a campaign? Are you going to run it as a program? Let's help try identify that and then land that narrative and connect with the customers. It was a difficult question, and I worked with my team and I said, it's not a campaign. Campaigns are a message that you want to take to the market. It's a key moment that lives across every campaign that we run. So fast forward, just to answer your question, you're just building that framework, understanding the customer, understanding the product, having that GTM clarity and building that framework to get to the customer is not one message does not fit all. You really need to think about different layers, but it's one campaign that ties everything together. And it's not about how many campaigns you take to market. And I generally don't, think about, okay, I need to take 5 campaigns to the market. It starts with what messages do you want to lead the market with this year? Are there 2 messages or 3 or 4 messages that you want to lead with? And then you connect those messages with what you want to do in market.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much great stuff in what you just shared. So I'll try to take us in a few different directions here. I think first, just as you were talking about the approach to transformation, and you talked about kind of reflecting internally, which I definitely agree with. And I think a lot of folks in my ecosystem, and I'm sure our listeners are in that kind of soul searching. How do we want to evolve? How do we want to transform mindset? The piece that I think about is, yes, you want to reflect internally, then you want to analyze externally, and then bring the two together and see kind of what is the right path forward. I'm curious to bring it back to kind of what you did as part of this Google marketing transformation. How did you look at the different kind of stakeholder audiences? How did you kind of validate, I guess, on the external side, on the customer and prospect side, what was resonating and kind of what needed to change for maybe any hypotheses going in?
Yeah, great question. Let's kind of try and dive deep a little bit. So in a more practical environment, when I joined a campaign, there was no campaigns team at Google Cloud. And a campaign was generally a set of 5 or 6 emails that we planned to send to a customer. And it was one message, irrespective of whether you're a CXO or a VP or a developer or a practitioner. So the first thing that we tried building around was not just launching another campaign, but what are we trying to solve for? And those were the days, I'm talking about 2018, so I'm trying to refresh my memory. I think our brand platform at that time was let's get solving. So this was a brand team that was sitting, in a separate function. I was leading the enterprise marketing or the integrated campaigns team and trying to build the ABM programs, if you will. But the first order of priority was how are we taking Google Cloud Message to the market and how are we connecting it to the brand? So we started working with the product marketing team, and everything starts with the customer. I'm preaching to the choir, but you actually really want to know what are you trying to solve for a customer? And it's not just one thing, but what do they think about Google Cloud? Like, what do CXOs think about Google Cloud? Why do they want to implement or move to Google Cloud, if you will, from Amazon or maybe, from Microsoft, if you will? What do VPs and directors care about? And what are the wins? Where are we winning and where are we losing? And if we are not losing, why are the deal cycles getting lengthier? Or if they're not getting lengthier, how can we close them faster? And just trying to understand, first of all, building all these insights, working very closely with the product and the sales team. Once you've got all those insights, it was very clear to us that we started framing the problem into 3 or 4 things. It was very evident that for Google Cloud to make its mark, it's very important for us to get into enterprise or enterprises. And if you want to get into the enterprises where the sales cycles are probably 12 to 18 months, and these are probably multi-million-dollar deals, you really need to get in front of the CXOs with the right message. So what we said was, okay, CXOs care about 4 things, or let's say 5 things. And I think I touched on it. They talk about cost optimization. They talk about profitability. They talk about sustainability. They talk about transformation, innovation. If you're in Europe, they also talk about sustainability at scale. Now, how do we connect the brand platform with what CXOs care about, right? Because you need to bring everything together internally, and then the output is going to be amazing. It's just going to be a music that you really want to listen, right? So what we said was our first campaign would be, let's get solving for cost optimization. And this is the message that we want to lead with when we get in front of the CXO. But is it the same message that we want to tell the developer or let's say the director of the company who are more curious about solutions? So let's double down on what do we mean by let's get solving for cost optimization? How can you optimize your cost? So for at the solution level, this may mean like modernizing your infrastructure, you're transforming your workplace. So these are the solutions. And each solution packages a bunch of solutions or products. Is like, okay, you're moving your workloads from HANA, SAP to HANA or, to GCP. And there were a lot of these things. So the way we kind of crafted the story was we connected starting with customer pain points, we tried understanding what is our brand, what is the message, what is that one line that we lead with, what is our brand platform, how do we connect it with the pain point, which is the theme. So you start with the themes, you land those themes, and then you try to optimize how are you bucketizing your solution within those themes, and then how are you bucketing your products within those solutions. So that was the framework that we built. So once we build that integrated campaigns framework, it was very evident that as we launch a campaign, we are probably targeting 3 personas in parallel, but with 3 different messages and different channels to activate each of these personas. For CXO, it may be a roundtable without any PowerPoint presentations and maybe, with some of our champions. At the solution level, these may be webinars or maybe roundtable series, maybe, more in-person events, if you will. For developers and practitioners, it can be hackathons or some other, high-touch programs. So we not only looked at the messaging, we looked at the channels and how are we optimizing the channel. And like I said, the way I've always done marketing is if, let's say, Natalie, your company is my target customer, I only don't want to target Natalie, but also, some of the folks in your team. So when you talk to each other, what is that one line that you know about my company? And everyone should know about my company probably in the 3 to 6 months time frame. So that's the kind of framework that we built. And once that was built, we then started building our ABM programs, more campaigns, more events. Everything that we did in marketing revolved around that integrated marketing strategy.
Yeah, what I really like about what you're saying here is really talking about a lot of the foundations, right? And getting those in place. And I know sometimes that can be kind of the unsexy side of marketing. But I think it's so important. And right, having that brand clarity, the messaging, the clarity on kind of the ideal client profiles and the different roles within the organization that you're reaching out to.
I just want to, sorry to interrupt. I missed saying something very important. There are unsung heroes in marketing, the marketing operations or the analytics team. When you go for any kind of a transformation, specifically something like this, okay, you've built the strategy, but do you even have the database? Do you even have the tools to support that transformation? So in parallel, as we were building this, we were also trying to understand how big our database is and can we segment our database by the key personas? And then also, do we have the right tools to kind of fast pace our campaigns to market? Like, can we take like 3 campaigns to market? Can we also activate our partner and train our ecosystem, not only our partners, but also our sales team? So that marketing operations and the enablement becomes very, very important whenever you try and transform anything. But sorry to interrupt. Please go for it.
No, not at all. I'm glad you brought up that point. Where I was going to take us next is shifting gears into AI, and I know that's something that both of us have been very hands-on on, and that is very much changing a lot of what we're talking about. Which I think, closing out the thought with the unsung heroes in marketing operations, I would agree with that. Though I also think there's more kind of recognition and understanding right now, So hopefully they're not forever the unsung heroes, but are starting to get more of that the limelight, because I think it's just so critical to how kind of marketing and go to market is evolving. And to start us off with a question here for you, would love to ask how you see AI changing how companies should approach go to market.
How is AI changing the GTM strategy? I would probably let me touch a little bit on just the AI adoption, just to connect with the audiences here. But understanding it, AI is actually being adopted at a faster pace. I'll give you one data point, just to help us process this information. I was reading somewhere that it took television about 25 plus years to reach 50 million users. Internet did that in 7 years. And I believe smartphones reached 50 million users in 4 years. So from 25 to 7 to 4. And let's talk about AI. One single chat GPT application, which is a consumer AI application, reached 100 million users in 2 months. That's the adoption of AI. Now, what does that adoption do for us in a GTM role? Whether you're a marketer or a salesperson or a product person, you feel overwhelmed. And what I've recently been invited to host a closing keynote at AI for Marketing Summit, a couple of months before. And my talk was around AI and GTM and how you can use AI to harness your GTM engine. And one message that I kind of led with was this adoption is creating a challenge for all of us, which I call as accidental AI. You are just for any new adoption. Whenever you're adopting something new, you are adopting it without any intention. You're just adopting it and it becomes accidental. And what does it mean is it's ungoverned and unmanaged use of AI. So when you talk about AI in GTM, what's happening these days is you're a marketer, or whether you're in sales, you're trying to adopt the feature set of the current tech stack that you have, and you're trying to use AI features. But there's a study, I think Boston Consulting Group, they did a study which said about 72 to 75% of employees have started using AI. Now that number may have gone to 85%, but only 1/3 of those employees have said that they've received any formal training to actually use AI. So if I think about, if I have 100 people in my company, how many people are actually interacting with 1 or 2 or 3 LLMs? So whether it's Chat, GPT, Gemini, or Claude or whatnot, and how many of them have actually asked their IT team, what can I input into my LLMs? No one is asking, and it's ungoverned use. That is creating a lot of problem in the GTM space. But my belief is AI is the new operating system for your GTM. If done right, it can actually move all those scattered pieces of GTM engine into a beautiful art, into a beautiful mosaic art. And that's what's the power of GTM or AI in the GTM world.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. So I'm really glad you brought in some of the data points around the behavior too. Because the other thing you're making me think of is, the buyer behavior. It feels like it's changing faster than most organizations can transform their go-to-market. And I'm not talking about, putting out a piece of content or a campaign, but really like the sales behaviors need to change. The marketing mindset needs to be kind of different, how the tech stack operates, right? And these things don't happen overnight. And companies also want to build in such a way that they're not doing something that they're going to have to undo, 3 months, 6 months down the line. So you're kind of planning around a moving target. And I'm curious, in the work that you're doing with clients or in kind of maybe conversations you had at that conference, if that theme came up, and kind of how are you thinking about that?
That theme definitely comes up. And, everyone wants to, first of all, know like, hey, I want to really implement AI. So the first thing is, what is AI adoption for you? That's the number one question. Are you just adopting AI by just using 1 or 2 LLMs? And if you've used LLMs, are you just using AI for generative AI capabilities? Or are you also trying to transform where you're trying to be an advanced user of AI and you're trying to now create your own GPTs in ChatGPT, your custom GPTs, or now you're creating your gems in Gemini? Or you've even gone one step further and you have now started building these AI workflows, and people call about AI agents. So it's very important for a company when you think about the GTM, first of all, having that understanding of GTM clarity. What segments are you going forward to? What is your data stack? What is your current tech stack looks like? What is your operating model? If I were to kind of thread the needle, the first thing it's, do you want to be AI native, or do you now trying to solve for like, how are you adopting AI? That's the number one question. Where are you in the journey? And generally it starts with like the top 3 or 4 things I have in mind. When you try to adopt AI for GTM, the first question that you want to solve for is, what is your operating model? Who owns the AI? No one owns your company, but who is that champion? I was at a roundtable a couple of weeks before, and I talked to a bunch of people from a project management company. I will not name them. I think we all have used that company in our previous lives as a marketer. And it was interesting to see that that company has actually created AI product managers, and there were marketing operations people who are now moved into that AI product manager role, and they are now reporting into the IT organization. So what was clear is that company has IT, or the CIO owns the AI narrative. So they don't only own the tech stack, but they also own the data and how the data will be fed into these LLMs. So that's the operating model. For your company, it's very important to understand, is the AI a RevOps leader's responsibility, or a marketing operations person's responsibility, sales ops, or does it sit in, CIO world? Once that is resolved, you really want to start building that data stack or the data hygiene layer. I think I've shared this with you. My first role was not a marketer. I was actually teaching C++ and operating systems. And back in the day when I was teaching operating systems, it was in the first chapter, it said input, process, output, how you move the information and how the information is processed. And once processed becomes the output. Um, that's the same thing with marketing too. If you don't have the right data, your output is always going to be garbage, garbage in, garbage out. So you really want to build your data layer. And what are the different sources of data? You have marketing data, you have customer data, you have product usage data. Is that data talking to each other? Is it integrated? And if it's integrated, how are you feeding that data into your AI layer? And what kind of insights are you running? So that's the third piece. So the first was, who is the operating model, where the AI sits? What is the data stack? Do you have the data hygiene in place? And is someone in charge of data hygiene? What are the guardrails now? The third thing is, what guardrails as a company are you putting around that data and around your AI infrastructure, if you will? And then the final thing is the change management. When you do all of this as a company's leader, as an executive leader, or even as an employee, are you first as a leader, are you empowering your team to get trained on AI? And the training of AI doesn't mean just go to Coursera and take a course. Sorry, I didn't want to name any company, but go to all these. They cannot just take these siloed courses. They have to understand what AI means for their company and how are they going to adopt the AI, and what phase of the journey they're in. Is it just the initial stage, or are they ready for building these workflows and AI agents? So when you think about these 4 things, from the operating model, the data, and what are the guardrails, and what is the change management process, how are you training and enabling your teams to get on the AI bandwagon? I think that's very important. And once that's done, building AI is just a reflection of how you're going to take your stuff to GTM, and it's going to simplify your GTM processes. So what I tried just explaining was how you think about AI adoption in a more GTM setting, and what is a core example of how you can actually do that.
Hey, this is Natalie, your Shift and Thrive host. After chatting with lots of CEOs, one thing is crystal clear. Leveling up your company means having a killer go-to-market strategy. That's what my crew at Magnitude Consulting does every day. If you're trying to step up your marketing game, whether it's strategizing, accelerating your pipeline, expanding into new markets, or getting into AI and automation, let's talk. No pitch, no pressure, just good conversation. Visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com/Natalie to schedule a time. Can't wait to connect. I'm curious to ask you, thinking about either, smaller or younger organizations, so whether it's a startup or just an established smaller business, what do you think become the harder components of kind of the framework that you just mentioned? And do you have any recommendations there? Because I know a lot of our listeners are in kind of, smaller, lower mid-market size companies.
Um, I think there is no right or wrong answer, but it's my having worked in both startups and big environments, and big companies. I think if you're a startup, you are more agile and you can actually start using AI much faster than a bigger company. But as a startup, the problem that you're going to lead with is, or that you're going to run into, who owns this AI narrative in your company? And if you really want to win that conversation, you need to start having that discussion with your executive team first. You need to have a champion in the executive team to run the AI initiative. Irrespective of which department or function runs it, if there is an executive championship or if there is a buyer, that there is an exec sponsor, I think your AI adoption journey is going to be much faster. So if I'm a startup, the first thing that I would do is I would sit with my executives and I would ask them, how do you want to run AI initiatives within the company, and have a budget assigned to it. And it can be an experimentation budget. And when I say experimentation, people just generally think, what new tool that I need to use? There are probably 2,000, 3,000 tools out there that you can use. It's not about the tools that you're going to use. It's about understanding your GTM. How are you going to market? Looking at your current tech stack, and then activating all the features that you can within that tech stack, and then using AI principles to, just in a more simplistic way, how are you going to run insights? That's the easiest way to start adopting AI. You can use things like N8N, you can use Lovable, you can use a bunch of other tools to start creating those workflows. If you're a startup, you really need to start investing in how you look at your data and how you run insights.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for the smaller companies, like, yes, it can move faster, can make decisions around tech stack for kind of where things are today and where they believe they're heading. We were talking earlier about some of those foundations that you need to be able to kind of think around this of, what is your brand position, your ideal customer profile. I think that is the place where, at least from my experience, I see companies trying to kind of fast forward too quickly from that for the sake of trying to uh, get things in place and needing, of course, to start driving results. But I think then you end up, it's easy to end up kind of scaling in the wrong direction or putting kind of uh, too much power and manpower in a direction that ultimately, like, you don't have the product market fit or something isn't resonating. Um, and it sounds counterintuitive, but then needing to kind of backpedal in an inefficient way. I don't know if you see
Yeah.
that well.
And I do, and I would probably give very practical advice, something that you can do today, if you're in your roles, whether you're a sales or a marketing leader, or you're, in the executive seat. I would say it's always good to start the AI council or a committee within the company that meets every other week, if not every other week, every month, and you give them one task. Pick whatever work that you're currently doing and how can you make it more productive using AI. And the work that you can give, the homework that you can give to your team is creating these prompt libraries within the company that can be shared across the company. So, for example, I can train an LLM on my brand message, brand tone, and whatnot. And once that is built, I can just create a custom GPT that I can then share with my company that's not going to be shared outside of my company. And I can keep asking questions and it can convert into scripts or emails and whatnot, right? It's a very, very simple example, but the core action item is, if you're creating that AI committee, what you need the output from that AI committee is two things. What is the AI journey that you want to be on, and how fast or slow you want to adopt AI? The second thing is, start creating these custom GPTs or prompts and save these prompts, because if you've created that prompt once, you don't want everyone in the company start creating their own versions of it. And once you've created those prompt libraries, keep it in a centralized location and say, anyone can use it. If it's probably for email creation, use this prompt. If it's for searching which events do we need to go in 2026, use this prompt, or whatnot. So creating those prompt libraries is probably going to be a very good action item for all the companies to start thinking about now.
Yeah. You can't see this on the podcast, but I was smiling when you said that because my colleague rolled that out for us internally a number of months ago. And it took a little time for everyone to start going there. And now it's the amount of things that have just continued to get added to it has accelerated completely, because it is one of those cases where you have to slow down to speed up, right? You have to take that moment to kind of put it in the right place, get it in the right format. but then it has such tremendous impact. So I would underscore your recommendation there. I'm curious if there's anything that you've created for yourself, whether for in a personal or professional use, a custom GPT, kind of anything in your personal prompt library that you'd want to share.
Well, yeah, there are quite a few. I won't bore you with all the details, but I'll probably share one in a more corporate setting. So in my most recent company, I was at the VP marketing Celona or the CMO of Celona, the company in the private 5G space. You know, the media team used to report into us, and what we did was I actually ended up creating a prompt. We wanted to target all the Fortune 500 companies, specifically in the manufacturing, logistic, warehouse, oil and gas refinery space. Um, and if you really want to do ABM, and we all know that you need to personalize your ABM outreach as well. And it's very difficult to find insights, right? So you want to find insights about the company. You want to know how well they are, what problems they are facing. You also want to find insights about what personas you want to reach out to and what these personas care about, which events they go to. So I ended up creating a custom GPT. And that GPT was most of these Fortune 500 companies are public, let's say 70 to 80% of them. And I said, it was probably a 2-page prompt, and I kept refining it to the point that it just started yielding the results that I wanted to be. But it actually ran insights on at least the last 3 earnings report. And within the earnings report, it scanned everything, like what were the pain points highlighted? Is the company profitable? Have they got new funding? Or do they have new funding for a new project that is coming up? Is the stock price going up or down? Are there any specific personas named in the earnings report? Are there any competitors or are there any partners that are named in those earnings report? And the output that I asked it to generate was, what are the pain points that company is going through? What are the tailwinds for the company? What are the headwinds for this company? Who are the key personas that are named? Search these key personas online and tell me which events are they going to go to. And then I asked for a very specific output. Now use all that summary that you've created, ChatGPT, of this company from the earnings report, and tell them and probably create a quick summary of how Celona can help them with their enterprise connectivity. So it gave me a quick summary, and then I said, use the summary to even create a cold outreach to any executive within the company. So it took me some time to create that chat GPT, or a custom GPT, but when we ran it across 5, 10, 20 different companies, it just gave us a very detailed description of the company, the personas, the partners, the competitors, and it equipped the BDRs. Generally, they would have to work with their sales rep, and they have to spend probably a couple of days to get to a point on which persona within that company do they want to reach out to. Now, with that information, all that research work has been reduced to, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes. They've got everything, and then they can just prioritize and strategize like, okay, this is what I've got to know. Who do you think that I should reach out to? Is it multiple people or one person, right? So that was a very good example. There are a couple of other GPTs that I've created for myself. For example, if I'm talking to a bunch of companies, I've also created like, okay, tell me more about the company, their GTM, their personas, like the product solutions. What is the market? What is their TAM? What is their SAM, right? And how do I need to, talk to this company if I'm talking to them about their pain points? So 3 GPTs that I think every company that should create is one for their ABM personalization or personalization at scale, running insights on their first party data, which is their product usage data or their CRM data. And then the third one would be just training a GPT or a gem on your brand and tone that can really help you fast pace, whatever outreach you want to do to their customers. I've created a bunch of others, and maybe that's a conversation for a separate time. I've even created some AI agents, and I'm still on that journey. I'm trying to learn more and how to connect more and more sources to create more agents.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are 3 great ones for the audience to take away from this. I think those kind of insights on the data, you can take that in so many different directions. I know my personal new favorite is we've loaded all of my podcast conversations into Notebook LM and being able to chat with that. And hey, what was that conversation a year ago that we talked about this? And how do I bring that back to the discussion? And that's, one of maybe, a dozen or 2 dozen kind of use cases out of that. So it just shows how much the possibilities are endless, and it really becomes about that clarity of where do you need to focus and kind of what's going to move the needle for you.
Yeah.
I'd love to shift gears here and talk a bit about kind of you and your journey. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but earlier in your career, you started outside of marketing, and wanted to hear, how did you get started in your career, and how did those early experiences shape and how you think about your current focus?
Yeah, nothing too fancy here. I would say I'm proud, but I was a nomad early on. I did a bunch of things. I did my, marketing specialization. I did my MBA, but I also did a CCNA. First of all, I wanted to be an animator. Let me just go back. I did computers and I did, whatever education that I wanted to complete. And after that, I wanted to be a professional animator. Never got the chance because I'm from Chandigarh in India. It's further north of New Delhi, and there was no 3D Max studio, so I never got that kind of guidance how to be a professional animator. So I thought, okay, if I cannot be a professional animator, let me start thinking about some other avenues. And this is where I tried a bunch of things that I started working in, more call centers environment that helped me to be a better leader and also data driven. But there was a point in time that I was managing about 300, 400 people across 5 different centers. And though it may sound like, oh, I was in a call center, but those were the days when we used to get measured on RPD, registrations per day, or sales per day, SPD, revenue per hour. Those were the metrics that we used to get measured. So every hour that you were dialing for revenue. And I still remember, most of my team used to generate about $10 to $11 per hour. So if there are 300 people dialing in a given day and everyone is generating about $10 per hour, you can actually see how much revenue we were generating each and every day. So that's how I started, getting more into the data and leadership early on. And that actually gave me the first break to be in marketing. I um, never thought of myself being in marketing, honestly speaking. I started my career in teaching, and then I went to sales, B2C, and then I went into B2B sales. And because I've experienced all of this, back in 2006, I met Jay Chaudhary, who is the CEO and founder of Zscaler today. Back in the day, he had another company called CypherTrust, and he was in India. He was trying to, find a leader to build his marketing function for CypherTrust in India. And that's how I met him. And we started building, the team for CypherTrust. CypherTrust got acquired by Secure Computing, which further got acquired by McAfee. And that was the beginning of my marketing journey, or as a marketing leader. But during those startups, though I was on a marketing role, but I was always very curious to work with sales and customers and whatnot. So I never let that aspect of my profile go away. So though I was doing marketing, but I was also working very closely with the sales team on a lot of things. So my career progression, if I were to probably sum it up in three, I turned from a teacher to an operator, to be a GTM executive. I love that I'm in marketing. I used to call myself as someone who loves marketing to humans. That was my tagline on LinkedIn a while back. I've just recently changed it, but I still believe that um, there is only one function in a company, and this may be my bias, and I apologize to all the audiences if you're in sales or other departments. There is only one function in the company that has full visibility of the customer lifecycle or the customer journey, and that's marketing. And that's the reason I love marketing, because you understand the overall journey. You know how the pieces of the puzzle fit together. You can orchestrate it much better than any other function, but not without the input from other functions. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, with Zscaler, and I know you've talked about Zscaler. I was the first marketing hire there. I don't even remember the first. I don't even remember how much pipeline we had. Probably sub $5 million in pipeline to hundreds and hundreds of millions of pipeline when I left Zscaler. I got the opportunity to lead enterprise marketing at Google. I was there for about 4 years. Just loved everything that I've done. I think marketing makes you a better leader and just a better person, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'm a bit biased, but I tend to fully agree. And I think that full visibility of the customer journey is such an important piece. And especially given all the kinds of things that we've talked about here, from kind of those like strategic market insights and what you already know about the customer from the data, and then how do you activate that across sales and marketing and channel. So I'm right there with you. And would love to ask you before we wrap up, if there's one thing that you wish more CEOs truly understood about go-to-market, what would that be?
There's a lot that can be said on that topic, but I would probably, if I were to summarize in one sentence, I would say GTM is not a campaign. GTM is not one initiative that is run by a specific function. I believe GTM is the narrative that the CEO should own. And I've seen time and again that once you give the GTM narrative to a given function, like, okay, the CRO or the CMO or what, it doesn't go well. The CEO should own the GTM narrative. They should own end to end. They should own um, all the bets because they know where they want to take the company. Yes, they should use all the inputs from their executive team. But one message that I want to give to the CEOs is, number one, they should own the GTM narrative and they should empower their teams to now further build on that narrative, and also provide suggestions, if you will. But they should define what that strategy is going to be for first year, second year, third year, or 5 years from now. And then the second thing that I would want to leave with the CEOs is, it's okay to ask for ROI on any initiative that you run, but it's my personal belief that ROI is just the output. You need to start focusing more on the foundations. If, right now we are all talking about AI, and you can easily say, oh, I want to invest in AI, but what is going to be my ROI on AI in the next 3 months? I would probably shy away from that question, at least in the short term. And I would say, I really need to build the foundations first. And if the foundations are built, and if I've done it the right way, ROI is just going to be an output, and we'll all love the ROI conversation afterwards. So focusing a lot more on building the core foundations with the right people and the right team is going to be the priority, specifically, and now with the tech stack, that AI is asking for. So foundations and owning the GTM narratives.
Beautifully said. So thank you for that. And as we wrap up today's conversation, can you let our listeners know how they can reach out? They want to get in touch?
Oh, yes. You can always reach out to me on my LinkedIn, and maybe Natalie can share my LinkedIn profile or the link to my LinkedIn profile. But yeah, I am right now trying to be more active on the AI front. There was a time that, just the roundtable that I attended last week or the week before, they had 4 cue cards. And the 4 cue cards were, are you an AI beginner? Are you AI advanced? Are you not focused on AI, or are you an AI master? And everyone had to wear, like, where do they think that they are? And I thought I would probably pick the AI master, but I just added 2 words in, as a suffix. And I said AI master in making. I'm not an AI master right now, but I'm AI master in making. And if you have any questions on adopting AI or, building AI agents, or you have any suggestions on problems that you're trying to solve and you want to create a workflow for that, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I may not have all the answers, but I can guide you well in a way that, you can start your journey at least.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sajag.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and it was great talking to you. Let me know if there's any other question that I can help answer.
That's great. That's great. And it was so nice to hear all of these great insights from Sajag, from the frameworks for transforming with AI, a lot of the pragmatic, hands-on recommendations, like the 3 custom GPTs every organization should have. So thank you for that again. And thank you for everybody listening. If today's conversation sparked something for you, and I'm sure that it did, please pass this along to another leader in your network. We know that these are the kinds of conversations and insights that help us scale smarter, build stronger, and create more resilient go-to-market engines. So thanks again, Sajag, and this has been another fantastic conversation on Shift and Thrive. I'll see you all next time. That's a wrap for this week's episode. For show notes and more, visit shiftandthrivepodcast.com. A special thank you to our sponsor, Magnitude Consulting, bringing you the thinking power of a growth consultancy and the getting it done power of a full-service marketing agency to help B2B companies fuel their growth. For more information on Magnitude and to get your complimentary transformation readiness assessment, visit magnitudeconsulting.com/getready. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.